What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Charm City Sideline Podcast. I am Bradley. This is Zach in the middle here. That's Dawson on your right. Tonight, we will be previewing the Ravens-Texans game that will be happening on Christmas. First of all, want to shout out AP Productions for making that intro for us. It's fire. We've been looking for one to incorporate for a while now, so shout out to him. But yeah, guys, this is a quick turnaround. I mean, feels like the Ravens played a few hours ago, and we're already back with a preview. I'll start with Zach because you weren't able to join us for the post-game Steelers reaction. But how are you doing, and how are you feeling about the Ravens right now?
I'm doing great. Merry Christmas Eve to everyone that's watching right now. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. That Steelers game was awesome. I was so jealous that you guys got to go live right after it because, oh my gosh, it was so hype. And now this is the most ridiculous turnaround ever, right? Now we got to go play another playoff level team, and it's on the shortest week imaginable. I mean, and on Netflix. It's going to be like a loaded cast. I saw that they have like 30 people a part of the entire broadcast. So we're going to be hearing from like crazy players, and Noah Eagle and Greg Olsen are calling it. Like it's ridiculous. It's going to be so much fun. And on Christmas.
Yeah, this is the second year in a row that we get a Ravens game on Christmas night. So last year, of course, we had the San Fran game, which was definitely in our favor. And hopefully this year's the same thing, man. It's a very, very quick turnaround. I feel like the game literally ended 12 hours ago. Me and Brad were sitting here doing this exact thing. And our boys, in 48 hours are doing the same thing again. So a big game on Christmas against the Texans, obviously, in the AFC wildcard picture and all that. So it's going to be a big game, and I'm just hoping that our boys can get well rested and get ready for this big matchup.
Yeah, it's an exciting time. Past 2 years been really crazy at the end of the year. Last year, Ravens were fighting for the 1 seed. This year, fighting for the division title. Ravens are coming into this one at 10-5. Going to be taking on the Texans in Houston, who are 9-6 after falling to the Chiefs last week. It's going to be at 4:30 p.m. on Netflix, like you guys mentioned. Steelers and Chiefs will be playing at 1. Zach already said this, but it's going to be Noah Eagle, who's Ian Eagle's son, if anyone didn't know, and Greg Olsen on the game. In terms of odds for this one, Ravens opened up at -3.5. They've moved up to -5 now. Over-under is 46.5. We got a fun uniform combination in this one, guys. I guess more so on the Texans side than the Ravens. But Ravens are going to be in the white jersey and the black pants, and the Texans are going to be rocking their candy blue theme. So sort of what you see in the NBA sometimes when the court's different, all that stuff. I think their midfield logo is going to be like that sky blue H, and they're going to be in the navy uniforms with the red numbers and the light blue outlines. It's a pretty good look to me. I like them a lot. And then in terms of matchup history, Ravens have really dominated this, 12-2 in their 14 matches overall. Obviously, we all know the last meeting was the Ravens 34-10 win in the divisional round. Lamar finally getting the quote-unquote monkey off his back and sort of dominating a playoff game. One last news piece is the Ravens signed Steven Sims, who is a receiver, but more so a punt returner. He's actually the punt returner who returned to the punt against the Ravens on the Texans last year in the divisional round. So we'll see what that's about. I mean, Desmond King did fumble twice in the Steelers game, so we'll see if that's a replacement or just bring in competition. I don't know about that, but Dawson, I guess we'll start with you. What are your initial thoughts going into this one? Any thoughts on the uniforms or anything like that?
Yeah, so I'm one of those guys that always finds a big interest in the uniform matchup for games, and I love seeing two teams with really nice uniforms, and they kind of crash together, but it makes for an interesting appeal. And this one, I think, is going to be just that. I'm personally a fan of these H-Town jerseys we're going to see. They look pretty sweet from what we've seen and all that so far, so I'm kind of excited to see them. Hopefully they're on the losing end of this game, of course, but I like how you pointed out the matchup history between these two, because I feel like I can't even remember the last time I saw Houston beat the Ravens. I'm just being honest. I feel like all the recent games we can look back on, it was kind of a dominant win by the Ravens, respectively, in each one. So another thing I like to point out, this could potentially be a game that we see not too many weeks from now. This could be a game potentially that we see round 1 of the playoffs once again. So who knows what's going to happen? You never know. The Ravens could punch their ticket as a 5th seed and go on the road against a 4th seed, which very well could be the Texans. So potentially this is a game we might see a few weeks from now. So I'm super excited for it either way. But this, like I said, this is looking like it could be an early indication of what we're going to see in a few weeks.
Yeah, I'm excited for the game. I mean, the matchup history is wild. I mean, leading the series like they do. I remember the Deshaun Watson game a few years back, and the Ravens killing them. I mean, and that was pretty prime Deshaun Watson time. I mean, not even mentioning how CJ Stroud had an amazing year last year, and they still whoop up on them. It's pretty crazy. By the way, I did not mean to I had no idea the Texans were gonna wear that kind of blue. I'm wearing that blue right now. Guys, I swear I'm not a Texas fan, I promise.
That's funny.
That's funny.
So
I didn't
random.
realize that.
I was like,
He did it on purpose. Get him off.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, candy blue. I'm like, uh-oh. Like,
random. Yeah, so injuries, really notable news for the Texans. As you guys know, well, hopefully, I think most of you guys know if you watched the game on 2 days ago, whatever the heck it was, Tank Dell dislocated his knee and tore his ACL and had other damage in his knee on the touchdown catch. So that really sucks. He had an injury last year, dealt with, being shot in the offseason. He's been through a lot, and just hoping that he will be able to get back on the football field. It's a long journey, but it'll be awesome if he can find his way back out there. Stephon Diggs also tore his ACL earlier this year, so they're down their number 2 and number 3 receivers. However, John Mechie will be back this week, another receiver who's been through a ton, dealt with leukemia his first year in the NFL. He's really coming into his own now. At Alabama a few years ago, he's second-round pick. In terms of the O-line, their right guard, Shaq Mason, is probably not going to play in this one, just looking at Texans beat reporters. And then Will Anderson, who's been dealing with, I think, a hand injury, their star edge rusher, is probably going to play. He's been limited this week. And then on the Ravens side of things, Nelson Aguilar is still not practicing with that concussion. We'll see. It's always complicated with Thursday games. A lot of times people don't practice and then they play. So really no idea if Aguilar will be in there or not. Staying in the wide receiver side of things, Zay Flowers has not practiced this week with a shoulder. I would assume he's going to play, but I guess wouldn't be shocked if he doesn't. We'll see what happens there. Jalen Armour-Davis dealing with a hamstring. Falele still not practicing with the knee, but he'll probably be able to go still. Justice Hill, most likely he's not going to go in this one, guys, with the concussion. And then Trey White also not practicing with the shoulder injury. Zach, what are your thoughts on the injuries for either team?
Well, last year for the Texans, they didn't have Diggs, right? I believe Tank Dell was also injured, and he didn't play in that playoff game. So if you go look at the stats, I mean, we're going to be seeing a similar team offensively. I mean, sure, they got Joe Mixon now there. I mean, that's going to be a big difference maker. But overall, it's looking like the same wide receiver group that we're used to seeing and used to dominating. So, I mean, Schultz is going to have a day. He's going to be targeted a lot. And someone like Nico Collins is always a baller. But just for the Texan side of it, I mean, I feel like the defense should once again be going into it pretty confident, knowing that they're banged up and that they can take advantage of it. Just like last week with Pittsburgh. If Pickens is going to be out, they go into it with a different level of confidence, thinking we're going to be better than this team. We are better than this team on paper, and they should be.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think this team is very similar to who we saw last year in the divisional round. Obviously, we know how that game ended. I want to point out, kind of clear the air real quick. Obviously, I'm sure everyone here watching knows that the Texans have claimed former Ravens wide receiver Deontay Johnson off of waivers today. A lot of people are a little skeptical. I highly doubt that he'll be playing on Wednesday, and if he does, it will be extremely limited. That's literally a 2-day break in between these games that he's going to be claimed from. So I highly doubt we're going to see Deontay Johnson over on the field to Houston, and I wouldn't have a worry there at all. So I do want to point out, too, they have a really good running back this season. Joe Mixon has been absolutely game wrecker. He's healthy, and he is definitely a guy you got to keep on your toes and be vigilant about because he's been fantastic this whole season. He scores a lot of touchdowns. I know the Ravens are literally number 1 against the run. However, he's very good. Can't let him take it away from you because without a guy in Tank Dell, without Stephon Diggs, of course, the only guy they have legitimate threat-wise would be Nico Collins, who, of course, great wide receiver. Dalton Schultz has been a really good tight end this season for him. And of course, like I said, Joe Mixon. So look for him to be accounted for a lot. I think the Ravens match up well. The defense obviously has been really good the last few weeks, really last half of the season, I would say. So I don't really have any worries as far as our defense matching up against their offense. Just again, this is a team that's fighting for a lot right now. And with anything in this matchup, I would say the Ravens have more to lose. So the Ravens definitely got to go into this game and be careful because this is a scary good team.
Yeah, and leading into the offense for the Texans, somewhat of an average season, maybe underperforming a little bit when you look at the talent that they had in August. Granted, losing 2 receivers does not help. They're at 23 points per game. That's 13th. About 320 yards per game. That's 20th. They're 18th in both pass yards per game and rush yards per game. CJ Stroud has, been having what people call a sophomore slump. Hasn't been playing awful, but hasn't been as good as he was last year in his rookie year. He's around 3,500 passing yards, 19 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He's about 63%. Mixon's having a good year, over 80 yards per game on the ground, and he's 11 touchdowns. Nico Collins, we talk about them losing Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell. He is still and was their best receiver. 900 yards in 10 games. He was on IR for, I think, 4 weeks, missed 5 games with a hamstring. Still going to have 1,000 yards this year. He has 6 touchdowns, 60 receptions on 88 targets. He came out of Michigan, big receiver, and he's just been amazing. He wasn't great early on, and he just exploded last year and having a great year again despite the injury there.
I think everyone looks, like I said, at this Houston team right now and their record and all the injuries that they have and kind of all the turmoil, I guess you can say, going on over there in Houston. And kind of everyone, I guess you can say, kind of myself included, kind of overlook this team right now and kind of think that this will be an easy win for the Ravens. And this is just another game that they can kind of go in and control business. But like I said, I think this is a really scary game. And I don't want to say trap game because we kind of went through this before the Giants game. I don't think trap game is necessarily a thing that even exists for the Ravens, given that you have 5 losses on the season and lost a couple of really bad games that you should have had no business losing in. And I think this is a game that, obviously the season ahead of us is very scary to think about because the Ravens could either be the 3 seed or they can be like the 5th or 6th seed. Who knows? Like there's a lot of things that can happen here for Baltimore in the next couple of weeks, and they don't control their own destiny by any means. They need some help to kind of get that division crown. And, Pittsburgh, luckily, is playing Kansas City on Christmas night, and we kind of need them to drop it. So that's kind of encouraging as far as us needing them to lose for us to get to the division crown. I think that people are really overlooking this Houston team, man. And despite all their injuries and the sophomore slump from CJ Stroud, you can say, which I do agree with. He was my preseason MVP pick, which might be crazy now, of course. But going into the season, there was high expectations for CJ Stroud, given how good he was rookie year. And I just think all that, despite, man, this is a really, really good team that can still attack you from so many different ways. And given the short week, of course, I know both teams are on the short week. That's understandable. But going on the road, too, on a short week, literally across the country almost, like it's really tough, man. I feel a lot better about this game if we were at home. But having to travel down to Texas, which already on a super short week, man, it's pretty tough.
Yeah. So Ravens defense, we talked about this last week. Moving, and we talked about this. I mean, we're beating this like a drum at this point. But there's a stat that I saw today on Twitter. Since moving Kyle Hamilton back to deep safety, weeks 1 through 9, the Ravens EPA allowed per dropback 28th. Weeks 10 through 16, they are first in the NFL in EPA allowed per dropback. I mean, like imagine if someone told you like in October that the second half of the season, the Ravens would have the number 1 pass defense in the league. I mean, you'd probably be pretty shocked. In terms of like the whole season, Ravens are still 19th in points allowed per game, 16th in total yards, 31st in pass yards, and 1st in rushing yards. I mean, I think it might be a little tough for the Texans with facing, I mean, can you say the number one passing defense in the league over the last 6 weeks? I mean, Nico Collins is definitely a force. He's hard to describe. There's not really anyone I don't think you can compare him to. I'm not saying he's better than Jamar Chase, but he kind of plays like a 6'3" Jamar Chase, 6'4" Jamar Chase in my mind. Zach, what do you think the Texans need to do to, get something going on offense in this one?
I know you're kind of giving me the alley-oop for this because I wanted to talk about Joe Mixon. If the Ravens pass defense is as good as it is, and it's going to do it again, hopefully this week, they're going to be like trying to feed the crap out of Joe Mixon, right? Get some big plays for them and try and blow it up. I just want to point out one game. I'm looking at Mixon's stats. Whenever they played the Lions a few weeks back and Goff threw like 5 picks, Mixon had 25 carries for 46 yards. 25 carries, 46 yards. Like not even 2 yards a carry. Like, so even all those opportunities that they had, all the chances that they had to give him the ball and move the ball, they would still stick to it. They've done it all year. The last 2 weeks, they haven't had as much carries towards him, but they'd been doing pretty well air in and out. So who cares? This is going to be a week where the O-line for them, everyone is going to be like, all right, well, if their air defense is that legit, then we're going to let Joe Mixon go to work. Then you see our defense, right? Rush allowed per game first. I would say that, over the last few weeks, that number's kind of started to increase a little as our pass defense has gotten better, just because, it has to even out somehow. But I'm looking towards the defense stopping Mixon and then really figuring it out through the air because they have so well the last few weeks. There were some moments where I didn't feel great about the pass defense, even in the Pittsburgh game. Like I felt like there would have been a drive where they get one big deep shot and it works out for them, or that Kyle Hamilton breakup where they went for it on 4th down, right? If Russell throws that better ball or quicker ball, that has a pretty good chance of being a touchdown. Like this is CJ Stroud now. If he's going to have a guy like that, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a touchdown. It's a different level of quarterback now. So there's some things that can be fixed, I would say, but like overall, I'm feeling pretty great on this side of the ball. Like I think the injuries really for the Ravens point me towards more stress on the other side, which is kind of funny. But right now, I'm sitting pretty with the defense.
Yeah, it's pretty tough to think about like Houston's game plan going into this game.
Yeah.
And it's like you either, one, try to dethrone a unit that's been number one rush defense for pretty much as long as the season's gone, and you try to expose that and whatever that would mean. Or you try to take down a unit which, like Brad and you just said, Zach, that has been pretty much the best unit, respectively, as pass defense over the last half of the season. So it's kind of just pick your own poison and try to get anything going. And then obviously on top of that, you're dealing with injuries and all this stuff. So it's going to be really tough for Houston to really get things going, because I feel like our confidence, obviously we're Ravens fans, but like we're pretty confident in the pass defense right now. And obviously the rush defense is incredible. So I'm curious to see if they're going to really force feed Joe Mixon, kind of like Zach said. A 25 carry game against Detroit for 46 yards is pretty crazy, because it shows that even when it hasn't been working, they're going to keep trying to get it going. And they're not really going to give up until the clock hits 0 or whatever you want to say about that. But it'll be interesting to see how they attack this really, really good, surging Baltimore defense.
Yeah, and they just need to not turn the ball over. CJ Stroud, I mean, 11 interceptions isn't like some crazy number. Obviously, it's not even that bad at all. But they turned it over a couple times against the Chiefs on Saturday, and obviously that helped the Chiefs win that game. And I think the Ravens would have – I'm not going to say the Ravens would lose if they don't force a turnover, but I think it'll definitely be a come down to the wire game if the Texans never turn the ball over on the offensive side of the ball. And, we'll see if they can get Mixon going. I think this goes for any team ever, but I think against the Ravens defense a little bit, if you just don't give up on the run game, you're eventually going to hit a few ones. I mean, we see this with like Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris sometimes. They just keep trying, and eventually like Jaylen Warren bounces off a couple people and has like a 14-yard run or something like that. And Joe Mixon is one of those guys that can really last for the whole game, and he's a really tough guy. So we'll see if they stick with the run game.
Not to mention, Joe Mixon also has some history against the Ravens, given that he was a Bengal, of course. He knows his team a little more, I would say, than his teammates.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point there. And flipping over to the other side of the ball, Texans defense, it's a very solid unit, allowing just 22 points per game, a little bit over 300 yards allowed per game. That's fourth in the NFL. They allow exactly 200 pass yards per game. That's sixth. And they're 11th in rushing defense. They got some solid players, guys. Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter are their two defensive ends. I think everyone knows who both of them are. Daniil Hunter, great player for the Vikings for a long time, and he's having another good year in Houston. Will Anderson, third overall pick 3 years ago. He was a star right away out of Alabama. Inside linebacker, a little tricky. Azeez Al-Shire was suspended for the hit on Trevor Lawrence. I think this is going to be the final game of his suspension. So he'll be back next week, but that does not affect the Ravens. Henry To'oTo'o, a guy I was scouting a little bit in the draft a few years ago for the Ravens. I think when they drafted Patrick Queen instead, I think To'oTo'o was like a second-round guy that year. He's really playing well. 97 tackles, leads the team. And like they don't get any worse in the secondary. Derek Stingley, who a lot of people thought they should not have taken. I think he was taken ahead of Sauce Gardner in that draft a few years ago. Now, I mean, he's playing very well. Kamari Lassiter, their second-round pick out of Georgia, also having a great year. So those are kind of their two corners. However, I will say Jalen Petrie, who was one of the best nickels in the league, along with Hamilton and Brian Branch, had to go on IR. So they've had to move Lassiter into the nickel spot, and then Jeff Okudah has had to play outside corner with Derek Stingley, and Jeff Okudah has struggled a little bit. I know you guys know he's bounced around a little bit since being, I think, the fourth overall pick for the Falcons a few years ago. He's been struggling a little bit. So that's kind of the guy you would attack in my mind. And then another great rookie. This is similar to the Chargers secondary where two rookies are just playing lights out for them. Kalen Bullock has 5 interceptions playing deep for them. He's out of USC in the third round. So getting good production out of a lot of young players. There's really Daniil Hunter's the only old guy playing meaningful snaps on this team besides like the interior D-line.
Yeah, again, another unit that's just completely overlooked, and people don't really realize how good this unit's really playing football. And I would say, Houston this season's obviously been a good team, but their offense at times has really lacked. And I would say their defense, if anything, has really kept them in a lot of these games. And I would say ultimately has won them these close matchups just because of everything we've already gone over. I think that our offensive line has to be ready this week, dude. The tackles in particular have to be ready. Ronnie Stanley, Roger Rosengarten, you have a day ahead of you. Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson are absolute freaks. They're game wreckers. Mm-hmm. They run through people, and they get to the quarterback. So this is going to be a tough matchup, once again, for the offensive line, much like Pittsburgh was this past week. More so I'm focusing on the interior of the offensive line, hopefully getting some production this week rather than collapsing on every play, it feels like, against the Steelers. Secondary, obviously, in Houston, like you said, Brad's very good. A lot of ball hawks, a lot of big-time playmakers. A lot of quick, shifty guys who get to the football very quickly, sideline-to-sideline players, and very physical. It's a team that plays much like AFC North football, man. So this is a team to watch out for on the physicality side of things. Brad, did you want to say something?
Just real quick. Everyone in their secondary has great ball skills. Like, they all catch the ball. That's something that I've noticed.
I will say again, though, they're dealing with injuries there, too. Obviously, Jalen Petrie's out. I think Jimmy Ward is his name. He was kind of stepping in a little bit the past week or two. He also got injured this past week, and he's out for the season, I believe. So he is done. So once again, they are going to like a third man on the depth chart. So the Ravens' offense is just going to have to obviously attack the weakness. And I think we can all agree, this Ravens offense is so good. It's a offensive juggernaut, and I would say that it's hard to find any defense specifically that this team cannot necessarily match up good against. I think the Ravens have everything they need to match up against anyone and take down anyone. They have a fantastic wide receiver duo right now in Baltimore brewing. Obviously, you have King Henry, you have Lamar Jackson at quarterback, you have a two-headed monster at tight end, and we have a pretty decently solid offensive line for the most part. So it's kind of hard to find a defense that you can't have confidence in this Ravens offense essentially running through. And I do think that this offensive, I would say this historical offensive season as a whole, I think continues, on Christmas night down in Houston.
While Dawson was doing that, I was getting visibly giddy. Like I remembered a stat, right? I remembered first off that Derrick Henry knows the Houston Texans. Like he knows the Houston Texans.
Yep.
But this is a different level. Since 2019, he has had 4 games against them. 4 games where he has gotten over 200 yards rushing against them. 4 games.
That's
He averages
wild.
102 yards a game against the Texans. In like, I don't even know how many this is. It's like 16 games.
Wow.
Is the game plan not obvious? Like, we're just going to let Derrick Henry cook. I mean, last week you play a fantastic rush defense. They were a little banged up, but oh my gosh, you have to do it again. We can talk about how, I mean, I love Will Anderson and Hunter, but like, dude, they're also in for a treat at King Henry play. I'm so excited now. Like that is just ridiculous stats. That's ridiculous.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, the familiarity with him down in Tennessee, man. He played Houston every year, kind of like we were talking to Joe Mixon playing Baltimore. So you got 2 running backs in this game, respectively, that know the opposing team very well. So
Yeah,
that makes for an interesting little storyline. That's awesome, Zach. Thanks for pulling that.
Yeah, I forgot.
That's insane.
Like I know they're in the same division, but I did not. I don't know, because when you think about it, every game you see Derrick Henry, like Red Zone, you're watching Red Zone in 2021. Derrick Henry's just running for like 260 in Houston.
It's so
I've seen that 10 times.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. He had a game, 2021, where he ran for 250, 2 touchdowns, on 34 carries.
I
Dude,
think
that's so
That is not
freaking
even
ridiculous.
funny, dude. That's
Why?
ridiculous, dude.
Why do I
Oh
have
my
so many
gosh.
more memories of Henry going off against the Texans than the Jags and Colts? What is with them?
Oh,
Is he
great
just
question. Well,
just
hates
isn't the Jags was the 99-yarder, I think. I'm
yeah?
pretty sure. Like that's the only one I ever really remember. I
He
guess
just
for those
owns-
Texans games, maybe it's constant
I
domination.
believe-
With, like the big crazy plays.
Yeah, I believe he hit 2,000 yards against the Texans when he had the 2,000 yard year a few years ago. But anyway, we saw the Steelers
I can
defense
imagine.
last week. We saw the Steelers defense last week just not let Lamar run the ball. Every single zone read, they read Lamar. So the edge rusher takes the outside angle, doesn't let Lamar keep it. He hands it off to Henry. It didn't work very well. But what are you going to do? Are you just going to let Lamar run with no one there every time? I mean, and I think we're going to see this down the line where, Lamar's mom yelling at him definitely plays a part. But I think in last year, I mean, there's all those rumors, and Lamar, I think, even said in an interview that he was injured for the playoffs last year. But I think we're really going to see Lamar start to run a lot, especially when you get into the playoffs. And it's just one game or your season's over. I think he's going to start running even more, but we'll see how the Texans attack him. I think he's sort of taken a step back behind To'o and Al-Shaair, but Christian Harris was frustrating the heck out of me in the divisional round game last year. I think he was spying Lamar a lot. That was like 2nd or 3rd year inside linebacker out of Alabama. That's like the most frustrated I've been in a while of someone like bottling up Lamar. So
Wow.
we'll see what he's able to do. I think he's healthy. But yeah.
I want to add, I'm very curious without Justice Hill what the offense does, with whoever really the second running back is, right?
Keaton Mitchell.
I mean, shoot, I'd love if it was Keaton.
Keaton Mitchell time, baby.
I mean, I would love Keaton Mitchell time, but
Oh, it's gonna be.
the screen passes, everything like that. Do those go to freaking Rasheen Ali? I mean, does that go to Keaton Mitchell? Shoot, we'd all get antsy watching Keaton get a screen pass and have the ability and have the room that someone like Justice has had the last few weeks and really the whole season. Like, if they really get him another chance to be a part of the offense and take over, like be a part of it as much as as we'll need him to be. Like, we then have a pretty tough discussion about, like, does Justice like give up some snaps? Like, that sounds awful. But then on the other hand, if they're going to Keaton and he's getting big plays, that sounds pretty good. I just don't know how really the team might be in a pickle if Keaton. This is all banking on Keaton playing really well, but if Keaton goes out there and makes the most of his snaps, like plays really good, I would be so happy. Anytime I really have seen him since he's come back from the injury, it wasn't anything crazy, no crazy plays. Maybe like 3 or 4
3 touches.
Yeah, like it's like, oh, okay, there's Keaton. Like he was just getting a 2-yard gain real quick or something. So I would love for him to be a part of it and put a stamp on this game. I would love that.
The cool thing is the Ravens realistically are going to be heading into the playoffs here with some pretty fresh legs on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, Lamar Jackson, like you said, Brad, obviously everybody knows, has not ran nearly as enough as we would think. And now that we're heading into the playoffs, he's starting to run a little bit more, kind of like you said after his mama got on him. So Lamar Jackson's legs are going to be relatively fresh. Derrick Henry is Derrick Henry. I think that's all you got to say there. Keaton Mitchell, we haven't even seen yet. Maybe this is a game where we can see him get introduced a little more like he was last season, and maybe we can roll into the playoffs. Maybe, like Zach said, Justice Hill giving up a few snaps of Keaton Mitchell here and there. We can see him running. And then, obviously Justice Hill is dealing with a concussion right now. But at the very least there, his legs are going to get a little bit of a rest. So maybe he comes back, he gets a little bit of a rest and breather there. So obviously we know too, going into the playoffs, a really big deciding factor in these cold late games is the running game. So Ravens obviously have a benefit there. And I would say they're going to go into this relatively healthy and fresh with the legs and a lot of guys to it. So it's going to be pretty exciting to see, especially who we draw, first round of the playoffs. I don't want to skip ahead of schedule or anything. I know we're focusing on this game, but I'm very, very curious to see who we draw round 1.
I want to add one more thing before you go, Brad.
Real quick, I was talking about Christian Harris. He's been dealing with a calf injury the whole season. So he's only played 2 games and he's healthy now. So that's why we haven't seen him.
Oh, crap.
So we'll see what he can do. We'll see what he can do on Wednesday.
Well, just to add on to this Lamar conversation, right? Week 1 is the only week that he's rushed for over 100 yards. He had 122 against the Chiefs. Week 3, he had 87. That's the second most highest. And then the next closest was against Philly. He had 79. The divisional game last year against the Texans, I'm looking at it right now. He had 11 carries, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns rushing. Like, there's definitely a big circle that we're trying to get Lamar involved against the Texans in the running game. So without maybe a little more explosive justice plays, maybe we see him, get a big one or 2 big runs in this game. That'd be awesome.
The comment you just threw at Brad was hilarious by KP, by the way. Eddie Jackson to the Chargers, man. What in the heck are we doing?
I don't understand why. I don't understand why the Chargers keep signing players that the Ravens didn't want anymore.
They put in a bid for Deontay Johnson too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. What's going on over there?
Like, is Jim just not listening to John at all?
Maybe
they're
Jim
just weirdos. They're weirdos. It's funny though.
Oh man,
it's really funny. Just won our scraps.
Literally. I mean, like, you saw Dobbins. It was like, oh, why didn't the Ravens keep Dobbins? And like, he got injured. Obviously, I was rooting for him, but Gus Edwards had a nice run. That was nice. Gus Edwards had a good game last weekend. Comment from Gerardo.
Go ahead, Brad.
What? I was going to say, yeah. Lamar just needs one big run to open up Zay Andrews. I agree with that. I mean, sometimes if Lamar starts with like an 18-yard run, it really opens up the passing game. But go ahead, Dawson.
We had a comment here on Instagram a couple minutes ago. I just saw it, unfortunately, by Peter7669. Said, who thinks a Jackson 5 on Christmas would be legendary? Dude, if Lamar Jackson puts up a Jackson 5 on Christmas night in a blowout fashion win on the Texans, dude, he has to be, like I said, I don't really care about this, but he has to be the MVP favorite, right? I mean, he has to be.
About this for just a few minutes.
I mean, he has to be.
Can I say, like, to the stream, like that stat that I told you guys about? I texted this to these 2 gentlemen a bit ago. I'll find it. But Lamar and the Josh Allen, like, favorite stuff for the MVP has shifted a lot. I think Josh Allen was minus 900 a little bit ago.
It went from.
No, you go ahead. What was it?
I was just gonna say it went from a lock to like it's actually a race now.
Yeah, like minus 900 down to minus 500. Minus 500 is like kind of where TJ Watt is being put right now for Defensive Player of the Year. Like, Defensive Player of the Year is also a weird conversation. Like, no one's really taking it. It's just kind of like, oh yeah, TJ's the best. But like in MVP conversation, Lamar went from plus 700 down to plus 375. That's a pretty big jump. And let's say, shoot, Christmas comes around and once again, Lamar delivers something crazy.
And also,
big open eyes, dude. Big
I
open
think
eyes.
people are forgetting the Ravens still have one more game against the Browns too.
Dude, if Lamar goes off these next 2 weeks and like does his usual thing, and Josh Allen has like a semi decent performance in each or something like that, not Superman type stuff, like,
yeah.
And if we win the division, like I don't see why the odds are so substantially different. They have to be much closer. Like there's something to it that's not making sense. I don't get it. And like I said, we don't care if Lamar wins MVP. Like if he does, cool. If he doesn't, oh well. But it's just the fact that the odds are so far away is crazy.
And I see some people saying like, "Oh, we don't care." It's not that we like, "Oh, Lamar needs a third MVP." Like if this was like, it's the fact that he's having like a top 5 season of all time for a quarterback, and he might not win it because of like Josh Allen just being pushed by. Not even just the media, but like the NFL.
Yeah.
It's not like if we didn't think Lamar was having like one of the best seasons of all time, we wouldn't even be talking about it.
He's literally having a season like prime Aaron Rodgers. Like he's literally having one of the best seasons from a quarterback of all time. I think he's second in passer rating right now, is it? I think second or third in a season's passer rating. Like he could get the best passer rating of all time in one season. Like that would just be insane. That would be bonkers. So like if that's the case, dude, like I don't understand. I get it. It's not a stat award. It doesn't get gifted to the guy who has the best stats. But like at the end of the day, man, if these teams have similar records, they both win their division. Neither of them's the 1 seed. They both have had really big wins this season against really tough opponents. I don't see why the gap could be so far in between. It's really almost like it's disrespectful, bro. I don't get it. And it's like this weird agenda that the NFL is trying to push. And it's nice because now I feel like it's finally catching traction. I think people are finally like opening their eyes a little bit and realizing that like this should not happen. So that's encouraging for us, I guess you could say, for Lamar, the people that care, like genuinely do care if he wins or not. I just think that like I saw a thing on Twitter earlier. I'll point this out. I don't remember who it was. I think it was Jack Settleman or somebody on Twitter. He said like, okay, if Josh Allen's going to win MVP, prove to me why he deserves it so much more than a guy like Sam Darnold. And I'm like, dude, that's a really good point because records similar, stats similar, big time wins similar. So it's like if you're going to throw Josh Allen over Lamar Jackson, you might as well throw Sam Darnold in there too if you're going to go off big-time wins and team record and stuff like that. Then Sam Darnold 100% has to be in the conversation as well. So, like I said, not a stat award by any means. I'm just saying if you're going to say, anything other than stats for Josh Allen, then Saquon has to be there because obviously his impact on his team, and Sam Darnold has to be there too.
Yeah. I don't really have anything to add to that. It's just
dumb. It's really dumb.
I don't know.
I would usually love Darren Orlovsky's takes. I usually love them. I feel like he's genuinely a good guy. This weird this is also like a whole different kind of section of the conversation. This like Josh Allen like interception yesterday, or was it yesterday? Yeah. Yesterday where like NFL and CBS is tweeting it's an arm punt because he gets trapped inside the one. I can't believe how lucky that player was. How lucky the Bills were that guy trips up and falls at the one. Like that's also just ridiculous. Yeah. And then 2, it's like what Dan is saying where he's like, yeah, that's exactly what I do. Yeah. It's like, Dan, you were never a great quarterback. Why don't you sit this one out? You can have an opinion on it, but like, Dan, please, if you're going to speak about it, it's like, oh, that's what any of us would have done. No, I'm pretty sure that like any other good quarterback is, I don't know, making that catch a little better or pass a little better. I don't know.
And if Lamar had that kind of stat line against a team of that nature at home, dude, oh my God, he would have been sent to another planet, dude. It would have been awful. And that's my issue to you right there, that comment. KP, it's a great comment. How are you about to weeks away from the playoffs even starting? How are you about to crown the winner? How are a person who has an MVP vote, a guy who literally is in the conversation, how are you about to sit here and say that the race is over? Josh Allen won. We don't need to see no further.
And like,
so you're going to tell me from right there, if Josh Allen had 2 picks a game and Lamar had 4 touchdowns a game, the race is over, right? It doesn't matter. Josh Allen wins. No.
I think so. D'Amico Ryans also was like, yeah, in my eyes, he's the MVP. He was talking about Lamar. He's like, in my eyes, he's the MVP. If you ask all of the NFL right now, who the MVP is, not anyone outside of it, NFL players, NFL coaches, who is not saying Lamar? Are there really players out there that would pick Josh over? Like if the NFL top 100 came out right now, Lamar Jackson is number 1. Easily.
Yeah.
What's like, I don't get it. I don't understand. I really don't understand why if it's really the wins, that's a shame. I mean, it just kind of sucks because Lamar's been screwed out of him with Tucker and all. So I mean,
that's my issue. Okay, real quick, because we're getting far off track. We're not even doing a Texans preview at this point. But my issue though is, okay, I understand the big time wins against both number 1 seeds, but we've also had multiple big time wins this season. Double-digit wins. Head-to-head, we killed the Bills. We killed the Commanders. We killed the freaking Broncos, you can say. We just beat Pittsburgh. We beat Cincy twice, and I don't care what their record is, despite those are big, big-time wins. Like, the Ravens have also had multiple really big wins, so it's not like they haven't. And if you look at the strength of schedule...
Yep, you go ahead and say that.
Ravens have a significantly harder schedule than the Bills this season. I think the Ravens are like 4, and the Bills are like 22. So, it is what it is, man, I guess. We're going for the ultimate prize, though. We're going for a Super Bowl. Who cares?
Yeah. And, like, we're not trying to say that, like, Lamar's the MVP. And that's what we had issues with. Because, like, there's still 2 more games left. And when there was 4 games left, people were saying it was over because Allen had won.
Yes.
Like, we're not arguing that Lamar should be the MVP because there's still 2 games to play. We're wondering why people were saying, oh, this race is over 2 weeks ago when Lamar was on a bye. Like, I don't know. But let's get into score predictions, guys.
That's all.
Christmas. I'm gonna take the Ravens in this one. 27, Texans 20. I think this will be kind of comparable to like the Chargers game where it's like it's kind of close, but the Ravens kind of have like a 1-score lead all game, and then they kind of just like get a stop at the end, and you never feel super nervous, but like the Texans kind of hang in there all game. I don't think the Ravens are going to like dominate, but I do think they're going to win.
Yeah, I think this is a game where, at the end of the day, the Texans are just battling too much stuff. Emotions are high right now, obviously, with everything that happened to Tank Dell. Understandably so. That's a brutal injury, especially to a guy who's kind of like a big part of your team and a guy that everyone loves, and it happened on such a quick, short notice, and now you got to play a game literally the day after tomorrow, which is crazy. Shame on the NFL for that, by the way. I think in this game, the Ravens are just a better team on paper. I think they're going to this game a little more healthier than Houston, obviously. And I just think they're rolling. And I think the Ravens right now, it's really hard to stop them with, coming off the bye, flying to 2 wins out the gate and just literally getting everything clicking all in one. I think the Ravens kind of handle business in this game. They don't dominate, but they win pretty comfortable. I have a score of 30-21. Baltimore wins. I think this is a game where we could see few field goals from Tucker. Hopefully he makes them and continues his little 11 for 11 streak right now he's on, which is awesome to see, by the way. I think this is a game where Texans defense can kind of make a couple plays, stop the Ravens offense for some field goals and hold them out of the end zone a little bit. But I think the Ravens do just, in the end, take it away.
Yeah, I'm going Ravens 31, Texans 19. I have a real hard time seeing the Texans score a lot, but I think they can get down the field a few times, maybe some Joe Mixon stuff, or maybe a Nico Collins bomb or two. But overall, I think the Ravens are starting to hit a stride around the greatest time of the year, the end of the year, and Texans are really hurting. They're in a bad spot right now. I saw on Texans Twitter that like in the comments of like one of their latest tweets, it was just a picture of Ravens Texans on Netflix, and the comments are like, oh great, another loss. Like they're all like, the fans are also on the same like bandwagon. They're like, oh my gosh, another loss. Oh my gosh, the Ravens, we know this one's bad. like they also are aware of the Ravens' dominance against them, and I think they win this one handsomely. Gerardo kind of nailed it. I mean, shoot, even 10's not that crazy to put a little money on. Nothing crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Texans fans, there's a few teams that like really respect their fans, really respect the Ravens. I think it's like Texans, Dolphins.
I was
Like,
just about to say Miami.
There's a couple teams that the Ravens kind of beat every single time. But yeah.
Should be the Bengals too, but they'd be playing games.
You should be the Bengals, but
yeah, Jamar and
I think Ravens fans are so much less confident against the Steelers than Bengals fans are against the Ravens. And it's like the Ravens are what, 10-1?
Yeah.
Lamar's 10-1 against the Bengals. So I don't know. But
my guy Kings at the Table official on Instagram said Deontay to the Texans though. I'm being honest, guys. I don't see Deontay Johnson
in this one.
He's not going to make an impact on this game. If he plays, he'll play like 2 snaps, dude. It's 2 days from now, dude. He's not going to get to Houston. He's literally just going to be standing on the sideline, and they're going to talk about him for like 10.
Like he might not even be there yet.
Like he's not going to make an impact.
I
think he'll be on the sideline when we talk about him. But
yeah,
do you think he's
not playing? He's literally not playing.
You think he's going to dress? I don't even think he's going to dress.
No. He's gonna go for like 250 yards, score 2 touchdowns. Imagine, dude. Oh my god, that'd be so miserable. Oh my.
What's up, Charles? Yeah, only 45 minutes late, but thanks for being here. You can rewatch it after we're done too. So yeah. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays. You guys have a favorite Christmas movie?
Ooh. Dude, I might get hate, dude.
Okay.
Really?
I might get hate. This goes back to me as a kid. A lot of people hate this movie, dude, but I really mess with the Polar Express.
Wow.
No, that's low-key valid.
That movie, dude, in my heart sits well. Like, as a kid, like, a lot of people hate that movie and think it's weird and trash, but, like, I love the Polar Express.
Polar Express is valid because, like, it's so nostalgic.
That's what I'm saying, dude. When you watch it, you just think of being like a little kid on Christmas morning, dude. It's awesome.
That's true.
Die Hard, though, Charles.
I was watching Die Hard right before we started this live.
Die Hard
I had to leave during the middle of it. Obviously, I've seen it multiple times, but I didn't. I was like trying to push it off a little bit, but
I'm like awesome. The biggest Elf fan you'll find. I mean, that's my jam, dude. Yeah.
And there's a massive debate on if Die Hard's a Christmas movie or not. I think it is.
It is. It 100%.
Like, you don't want to watch that movie in the summer. Like, I don't know. I feel like it's a Christmas
movie. A Christmas movie for sure.
I like Die Hard a lot. I like Elf. I watched Elf a few days ago. I have not watched Polar Express in a few years. I like Home Alone. Bang. Joe Burrow in Home Alone.
A lot of people on Instagram are saying Home Alone right now.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Ricky
shoot.
Adams has never watched Polar Express.
Any update on Calais Campbell to the Ravens?
Doesn't Tom Hanks play like every character in that movie?
Basically. Ricky, please report back.
Adams.
Report back. Oh my god.
Ricky Adams, you've not watched Polar Express. That's crazy, dog.
Dude, report back freaking
please.
Post game to the Texans.
We will stop mid post game. We will stop mid post game reaction to talk with you, Ricky. Win or loss, we will pause this broadcast and talk about Polar Express.
If anyone has not seen Die Hard, watch that. Not a Christmas movie, but I saw Wicked today. It was pretty good.
I'm gonna hot take. I don't like Home Alone. I don't mess with Home Alone. It's not bad. It's not bad. I just don't mess with it.
I love Home Alone. Oh my god.
It's just
Home Alone. Great. I like the first one a lot more than the second one.
Oh yeah.
That's amazing. All right, Ricky, please watch Polar Express.
Have you guys seen Christmas Vacation?
I've seen like half of it.
Okay.
That's funny.
Is there anything else we're missing? The old Rudolph movie?
I think we kind of went over all of like the classic like go-tos.
Yeah. We didn't. Yeah.
Grinch?
The Grinch. There's a few rom-coms.
No, dude, we're not talking about rom-coms on this spread.
Come on.
We ain't talking about rom-coms. Let's wrap this up.
Dawson's hating on rom-coms.
I am, dude. I am.
Polar Express, no rom-coms.
Yes, fact. Ricky, please watch Polar Express, dude. Please. Ooh, real quick, 10K Big Step of Marcus on Instagram said, "What is y'all's favorite scary movie?" Ooh, scary movie.
The first Halloween in 1978. I love
dude,
that
Brad, that is so valid, dude. I can't even say anything other. That's
one of the
valid.
only ones I've ever watched is like A Quiet Place. I like A Quiet Place.
Quiet Place? Don't watch the new one. It's awful.
I haven't.
The newest one is absolutely terrible.
I think it's always a good one.
Wait, Dawson, what's yours?
Scary, dude. It's got to be one of the Halloweens. I
Okay,
can't.
movie.
Oh, it's
It's
100%
so good.
Halloween. 100%. It's probably. I'd probably have to agree with you, Brad. That movie's freaking sweet. They're all good. They're all good.
Yeah. I watched that for the first time when I was like 13. I was scared for weeks.
Yeah, it's funny.
But yeah. A Ravens offense without Lamar Jackson.
Oh, nice. That's a good one.
Tyler Huntley. Oh man.
But yeah.
Snoop real quick.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Merry
Hope
Christmas.
everyone has a good Christmas Eve and a good Christmas. We'll talk to you guys late on Christmas Day. Let's see, so I don't forget this stuff. If you are watching on YouTube right now, be sure to subscribe and like the video. If you're watching on Instagram right now, go over to the YouTube app on your phone, type in Charm City Sideline, and go subscribe. We also are on Spotify if you would rather listen over there instead of watch us on YouTube. Charm City Sideline, links in the description of our videos. Yeah, rate us 5 stars.
Yes, sir.
First time I remember to say that, and I didn't remember. Zach reminded me. So, yeah, I think I got everything. I'm Bradley. That's Zach. Dawson's on the right.
I'm Dawson, guys.
But yeah, Merry Christmas, guys. Hopefully Ravens get the dub. And we'll see you guys Wednesday night. Peace.
Peace.